The love and effort put into Esperanto will not be lost, he answered. But no one person can construct a universal language. It must be made by a council representing all countries and must contain words from different languages. It will be governed by the simplest rules, and there will be no exceptions. Neither will there be gender nor extra and silent letters. Everything indicated will have but one name. In Arabic, there are hundreds of names for the camel. In the schools of each nation, the mother tongue will be taught, as well as the revised universal language. This quote in particular actually begins to delineate the prerequisites for this universal auxiliary language. And oftentimes in my discussions, we mention the fact that Baha'u'llah taught the adoption of an international auxiliary language, but we don't actually explore what are the parameters. And there's more quotes than the ones that we're actually reviewing here. But it's telling us it must contain words from different languages. It's to be chosen by an international congress. It has to have simple rules with no exceptions, no gender or extra or silent letters. So we actually have to have a perfectly phonetic script, right? We don't have a female sun and a male moon, as in some languages. And the rules of it must be strict with no exceptions. And I know for myself, I taught English overseas for 3 years. And you don't really get to, as an English speaker, you don't really get to realize the amount of effort and time actually wasted. I remember one of my friends who was actually from Serbia said, "Do you realize that we don't have spelling bees in Serbia? Because your script is perfectly phonetic. So you actually don't have to actually spend the time learning all the exceptions, all the different pronunciations of different groupings of vowels, or the different ways we can say even TH. So you actually released a burden off of people. Another aspect of this is it actually says it must contain words from different languages. And I think this is a very important point. And we can bring actually these two things together. For example, there are many languages in the world that are already very far-reaching. English is obviously one of them, Mandarin, Arabic, French, Spanish, right? Yet in the end, it actually says the revised universal language. And it's important to note this because this language is going to be chosen by a council of all existing nations. And it has these rules, no silent letters, no gender, it has to have words from different languages. So whatever language, whether it's an existing language or a language that is fashioned, it's going to have to be revised. So you might take a language, say like French, which actually has gendered nouns, and that would actually have to be revised to remove the gender. We might have another language that actually doesn't have that, but actually does not have a phonetic script, where you can just read it directly, or the grammatical rules will have to be changed. The aspect of containing words from every existing language, I think, addresses a particular challenge of a universal language. Because oftentimes, languages that are very universal in this day sometimes are caught up in historical, political issues. And people see it as someone else's language. Languages have histories, and they've been spread in various ways. We often have language spread by, say, economic either spread or even domination. Honestly, English in our day is actually one of these languages. We also have political imposition of language. Sometimes within a specific country, actually, like a specific language will be enforced universally, often at the expense and even death of certain languages, which again can cause harm and hurt throughout history. Also religious. Sometimes it's actually through religious missionary work or even religious, political, and economic domination or exploitation that many of these languages have actually spread. And what Baha'u'llah here is talking about, and what Abdul Baha and Shoghi Effendi are actually sharing with us, that this language itself is actually meant to foster a global identity, a vision of ourselves as a member of the human species. So we're really trying to actually, in the future, develop a language that is reflective of that. One, that it obviously facilitates the ease of learning, so children, or even people who are adults in that day, don't have to labor intensely to learn it. But it's actually pristine in its ability of intercourse, but it also doesn't have all of potentially some of the past baggage that it might be imposed on a certain language. So that in the end, it can actually represent the human family and enable us, without anything being held back, to share our thoughts and feelings and philosophy and sciences and arts across the globe for the betterment of all humanity.